I'm 20 years old. I signed when I was 16. I'm a center defensive mid / center back. You know, soccer's been all my life. Started at a young age, and, you know, I just like to, you know, share my passion for the game that I have, and, you know, just preach, you know, hard work and dedication, and I'm happy to be on.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no problem.
I'll start with a question just about how you got into the soccer scene. Like, I'm also from Richmond, so I know kind of Richmond's not really known for being a soccer city.
Yeah.
So what really got you into wanting to play professionally?
I think my dad, you know, kind of put a ball in my hands at a young age, and I remember seeing videos when I was a little kid of, you know, kicking the ball around in the kitchen, and, you know, them saying that, you know, I had a natural ability just to hit the ball, which is funny, but I don't know. My dad really pushed it. He loved the game. He was a D1 soccer player. And I just kind of, you know, started at a young age with rec and all that stuff, and just, you know, kind of gradually climbed. But my dad, yeah, like I said, was a big factor in that, and really pushed me, and, you know, was pretty much a father and a coach. And, you know, we've developed a great relationship along the way. But, you know, it's always been a grind for me since, you know, I started with travel and all that stuff, and I've taken it pretty seriously, pretty much all my life.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, Matthew, do you want to switch off on the question? Or? Sorry, you're cutting out a little bit.
Yeah, kind of.
Well, because you mentioned you're playing rec and, you know, signing professionally at 16. Just keep going. I'll figure the connection out. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear.
Okay, cool. So, you know, you signed professionally when you were 16.
Yeah.
How did you go from playing rec to signing at such a young age? Pretty quick time.
Yeah, it's a big turnaround. It goes from rec, you know, that's around 4, 5, 6. And then, you know, I got put into travel soccer, and, you know, was always playing against older kids, you know, that match, you know, trying to match with the physicality. So, you know, that means you fall back on your technical ability more, because I was a smaller guy. And then, you know, a lot of practice, a lot of trainings, outside of just the structured environment. You know, I think the team environment was perfect for me in terms of, you know, the relationships I made with players. But then I did a lot individually with my dad, just, you know, a lot of technical work with 1 or 2 players, or just myself and him, where just working on the basics and the foundation, you know, just passing, little dribbling, anything, just to go above and beyond, and really make sure that, you know, I was the best I could be with the ball at my feet. And I still do a lot of that stuff I mean, right now I've got a lot of time on my hands. I'm still doing the same things I was doing when I'm 12, 13 years old.
Right.
But I continually gradually, you know, climbed up the ladder, went to DC United, and did a tryout when I was 12 years old there, for their U14 team. And I was living in Richmond at the time, so we were making a 2-hour drive up there. I made their U14 academy team, and we were driving 2 hours each way, to make sure that I was in the best environment possible. So it was not easy, you know. All of this, you know, to be the best player you can be in America is a lot of travel, sometimes. And we were kind of unlucky that DC was all the way up 2 hours away, but we dealt with it. And I'm so thankful for my parents for making that drive. And so I went with DC United, and that gave me more looks through scouting, and I was able to get into the youth national team program, starting at the U14 team. And then when I made it into the U14 team, I didn't get called back until, you know, a year later. So that was a really, you know, a big reflection point for me. And, you know, I wasn't good enough at the time. And, you know, I used that not as a negative, but as motivation. And the next camp that I came in to the national team a year later, I was a completely changed player. And in a matter of 2 camps, I was already the captain of that U15 team of the national team. And then I made my way down to the U17 residency program, which doesn't exist anymore. Which the U17 national team program was basically a group of the top 20 to 30 players down in IMG in Florida, where we prepare for the U17 World Cup. Ended up going to the U17 World Cup and was one of the captains there. And we made it to the quarterfinals. And during my time down in residency, DC United signed me to a homegrown deal. So it's been a lot of travel back and forth and everywhere. And, you know, there's me traveling to different countries in between. When I was 10 years old, I went to Argentina and Holland 3 times. All these different experiences really helped me, you know, become the player I am today. And I mean, make me comfortable now here in Belgium by myself, so that I can do all these things. I mean, it's not an easy process, and it definitely happens quick, but you have to envision it and you have to see yourself, you know, and have these, you know, goals to achieve, I think is really important.
Yeah. Could you speak a little bit about the mentality that you needed to keep to play at such a high level, even from like 12 years old, like you were saying?
Yeah. The mentality is not always easy. I can speak one for that. You know, my dad really kept me to, you know, making sure that I was always giving my best and, you know, never slacking. I'm the type of player, if I'm playing 60 to 70%, I'm the worst player on the field. So I've always got to give 100% of my focus, or else, you know, there's no point in me being on the field. So that's always been a big part of what I do, is giving my best, whether that's training by myself or training in a group structured environment against the bottom place team in the, you know, the conference, or in your league, or the top team. You know, I treat every single thing like it's the same. And, you know, I just have a level of motivation I set goals that I want to achieve, and those really motivate me. I don't set unrealistic goals. I set goals that I think that I can get to, that are a bit out of my comfort zone, because one of the most important things is being outside of your comfort zone. I could have easily, you know, stayed in DC and, you know, been comfortable. I'm an hour and a half away from my family and my girlfriend, and it's all nice and comfy. But being over here, 6 hours difference by myself, is really pushing me. And, you know, if you're pushing yourself and you're making these sacrifices, you're going to give it your best, or else you're just only cheating yourself. So those have been really important things for me in terms of motivating myself. And, you know, I've got a great support system that keeps me to those values.
Yeah, so you talked about goal setting. Do you have like a specific process that you go through, or a document where, you know, you kind of set these goals? This is what I'm going to do this season, or this is what I'm going to do this week, so that I can continue on this really high achievement level.
Yeah, I think I have a journal that I use. I don't use it daily, but, you know, sometimes I feel, you know, inspired. You know, I've got time on my hands, I'm thinking, and just the best way to sometimes release those thoughts is just to write them down. And in writing those things down, you get to see where your head is at and reflect on it. And, you know, in terms of setting goals, it can be as simple as, you know, I don't want to lose a ball this entire practice, which is just a small goal, to I want to be the defensive MVP of our team this year, you know. And one of the biggest goals for me in my rising career with DC United as a homegrown was when Audi Field was opening. I said that I want to be an important part of DC United when Audi Field opens. And in our inaugural match, you know, I started that game at Audi Field. So that was a big goal that I achieved, and it told me that, you know, I need to keep setting these goals, because it's holding myself accountable, you know, to to getting better, to continuing to progress. And as a young player, I'm sure I'm speaking to a lot right now. Your development is like this, but having something to look forward to and to look at is really, really important. And either when you're here or you're here, it's still the same thing you're looking forward to. And it may seem like, as me as a young pro, he's only gone up like this, he's really lucky. I can tell you that I've had a lot of lows, and those lows have made me where I am today. Because at the highs, sometimes you can get complacent, but when you're in your lows, you really get to see who you are as a player, and who supports you and who's around you to help you get out of these moments. And you have to use those lows as a learning experience. You can't dip back down. And that's one of the biggest advices that I can give to a young player, is whether it's a big high or a low, you're gonna get out of it, and you have to use it as motivation, only to get better and to not repeat it.
Yeah, that's brilliant, really insightful.
Yeah. Talking a little bit about, trying to stay out of that mentality when it comes to lows, kind of right now, COVID-19,
Yeah.
not everyone's stuck at home. How has your training regimen changed, like pre-coronavirus, post-corona?
Yeah. Well, obviously there's no team training anymore, so it's pretty much everything is individual. I haven't trained with another person in the past 6 weeks, but I'm training 6 out of 7 days. So what I normally break it down into is what I'm going to do for my running to maintain my fitness, what I'm going to do for my ball work to maintain a sharp level with the ball, and what am I going to do to maintain a good level of strength. And that can take up maybe 3 to 4 hours of my day. So I'm already cutting out a lot of my day. But it's not easy. Sometimes, there's that person in the back of my head saying, when are we going to actually play again? It's going to be a while. You don't need to be running this hard right now. You don't need to do all those push-ups or sit-ups. I mean, who's really watching, But it's, at this point in time, when you're by yourselves quarantined at home, is the most important part. When nobody's watching, what are you doing to make yourself better? And what are you doing to make sure that when all this is over, that you're going to be on top, and you're going to gain the most from this situation? You've got a lot of time on your hands, and that's a lot of time that you can better yourself. Now, I myself can admit that I should probably be reading more books and all that stuff. I'm playing a little bit too much Call of Duty, but at least I'm checking my boxes with the soccer side.
Right.
So I'm really focused on that. And, I think it's even great for your mental health too. Being able to get outside and be active, obviously maintaining the social distancing and all that stuff, but you just feel clearer in the head. You feel like once you do that hard run, or you knock out that great workout, or you knock out an awesome hour of ball work, you feel like you really achieve something, and you're really, going closer and closer to your goals, and just progressing yourself and getting better. Yeah.
You talked a little bit about, not being able to pick up a book. So that kind of reminded me of the whole, you had to balance school and like the academy at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Like,
that was probably one of my more difficult things to juggle. I think I graduated high school a year later than I should have, which is hard to admit, but it's an honest truth that, as a professional athlete at the time, my priority was soccer. And I'm actually pretty proud to say that I finished high school, because the online classes are not easy. And it's always easy, to look all the answers up and all that stuff. I know. But, I try to stay honest with my work, and, there's always later, there's always the next day where you can knock out that assignment or something like that. And, the motivation, sometimes dwindles. but I could say that it's really, really important. When you're, activating your mind in any way, even if it's outside of soccer, it's a great way, just to continue to develop, because life is not all about soccer. It's good to, to get other, attributes about yourself that you can apply later on after soccer as well. And not everybody is going to be a professional athlete, unfortunately, or not everybody's going to have a 10 to 12-year career. So you have to be ready for when your time ends. And I think, yeah, it was difficult for me. I'm really happy that I achieved it. I told my grandma that I was going to finish high school and then look on to future classes. So right now has been, this past year has been a time of just, full focus on soccer, but I do plan on getting back into, college courses and starting to, apply myself more in that area as well.
Matthew?
Yeah, I know the commute with the academy can be hard.
Yeah.
I do scouting for the academy, and there's kids that are coming in and have done their homework in the car on the way to the academy, and then they're leaving, about to get back on the computer, doing the same homework on the way back. So it's definitely tough.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Especially at such a young age where you're trying to become this professional and you're trying to maintain, school at the same time.
Yeah.
That's definitely a massive achievement. So you have this really great mentality. How did that play into you captaining the U17 national team? And how did you kind of influence players around you as a captain?
Yeah. It's difficult as, a 16, 17-year-old kid, with all these crazy things going on in your head and you're a little bit wild, to really humble yourself and, to think about others, and, try to be the better man, because, at 17 years old, you're immature and you don't know really how to handle one-on-one contact with one another. And, some guys can deal better with advice this way. Some guys can deal with advice and stuff another way. So that U17 program and cycle really taught me a lot about how to deal with to deal with people better. Because if I was yelling at a kid on the pitch, and some guys could take that, and some guys were me coming over them individually outside of the group and talking to them more and getting more out of them that way. So, each person deals with advice and stuff differently. And that U17 cycle really taught me a lot about that. But I used myself. I've always felt like, I've sacrificed a lot. I'm not the guy that likes to go out and party and drink and all that stuff. I've always eliminated that stuff out of my, my plans. I'm not about that. And it doesn't excite me. I'm focused on soccer, what I put in my body, all that. And I know I've got that stuff on lockdown. And I've tried to be a role model in that sense, and show, others that, I'm motivated in this way, whether it's to win the World Cup, the U17 World Cup or U20 World Cup, or just be ready for the game on the weekend. That is some college team that we played in Florida. That's how, treating everything the same. And I think, I surrounded myself with guys that thought similar to myself. And sooner or later, more and more guys, started to hop on the train and be like, we're all in this together. We're all here away from our homes, thousands of miles away. We're all focused on the same goal. And in the U17 and U20 World Cup, we went to back-to-back quarterfinals of the World Cup, something that, a U17 and U20 team has never done before. So we were really motivated and really focused. And yeah, we want to get to the stage where, where we're winning these things. We're winning the U17 World Cup and U20 World Cup. But I think, I tried to be the best role model I could be, and, as focused as possible. And I think if you hold yourself to a high standard, then other people will look and sometimes follow. And that's all you can hope, is that they follow. And if they don't, it's their decision. You can't get mad at them, or else you're going to get an even more inverse reaction.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, you talked a little bit about like mentality of the team. How did your coaches provide that mentality depending on, you know, where you are? You went from Richmond Kickers to DC United to the national team, and now you're in Belgium. How has that been changing?
Yeah, it's been definitely interesting in terms of the coaching for, you know, professional level, because, you know, as you know, that a professional coach's job is never 100% for sure, and that's the first time I've had to deal with it over here in Belgium, as I dealt with a coaching change of you know, one of the coaches got fired and a new coach got in, and I think my mentality, you know, really helped me a lot in that situation, because, you know, I stayed focused and hungry, and I wanted to get on the field. And the first coach here was not giving me a lot of chances. You know, I came into practice every day, still giving it my best, and you know, I just wasn't getting the chances that I felt that maybe I deserved. And then the second team coach got promoted to first team, and the second team coach really respected the way I went about things and how I acted. And that's when I started to play a lot of games. And, you know, was lucky to have him. And then another coach got signed, and he became an assistant coach. So, you know, you never know who's watching and who's going to be promoted or demoted or anything. I just kept the same mentality through it all. And luckily I benefited from it, and having the respect of the second team coach, and, you know, got a lot out of that, and got a great amount of games and experience under my belt in the Belgian league now. So I think that's an important piece, is you never know who's watching, and you never know what's going to happen. Don't burn bridges. You know, I could have been, you know, sad or mad that I was getting put down to the second team, but, you know, I still went into it with the same attitude. And next thing you know, the second team coach is now my first team coach. And, you know, another thing is with, you know, in DC United, you know, I wasn't getting a lot of games, and, you know, I was frustrated. And then boom, both defensive mids in front of me are injured. So who's going in? Now I'm going in. So you have to be ready at all times at the professional level for your chance. And next thing you know, these guys are both injured, and I get 1,500 minutes in a row with DC United's first team. So you never know when your chance comes. You just got to grab it and always be ready. You can't be down. You've always got to be looking forward.
Yeah, that's super important. And having those relationships is also really important.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Matthew, or I've got another question.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, I was just going to say that consistency seems really important. Not only consistency at the level of play, but consistency in belief in yourself, because it's easy
for sure
to kind of fall into that. But if you're consistently pushing yourself forward on all fronts, then people are going to see who you really are at all times.
Yeah, I think, it's the consistency in your belief is so important, because at the end of the day, it's a business, and who's going to be the one to support you? It's you. The person that you're looking at in the mirror is the only person that's got your back sometimes. So you got to make sure that you're your number one fan first before you ask anybody else to support you. So I think that's important.
Yeah. So yeah, we talked a lot about mentality, actually. So I want to ask about like your nutrition, especially playing at such a high level. What is like, the important thing? What are your meal plans looking like, even now or before coronavirus?
Yeah. I'd say that, you know, unfortunately, I have a sweet tooth. So sometimes that gets the best of me. And, you know, you got to figure out, you know, who you are and how you deal with those things. Because if it's me, and if I have like some candy in the house, I'm going to eat it. So what I do is I don't buy any candy. And then maybe I have a cheat meal every now and then. But, you know, you have to know yourself. If you're the guy who is like the snacker and is always grabbing out of the pantry, don't have anything in your apartment or in your house, or else you're going to eat it. It's that simple. It takes a lot more self-discipline when it's in your house than at the grocery store. I've been at the grocery store and I've put candy in my shopping cart, And then, you know what, I'm going back. I take the candy back out of my shopping cart and then put it back in the place where it's supposed to be. So it's all about self-discipline. And, right now, we're not getting the full amount of physical load that we need to maintain our weight and all that stuff. So I've had to, increase my, my focus on my diet and making sure that I'm, putting in the right food, because, we don't have that 90-minute game where you're just completely,
Burning,
keeping that game fitness. So that's been important to me. And, I've enjoyed it. This has been the first time where I've really started to cook for myself over here in Belgium. So that's been a task all in itself to try and make food actually taste good. But it's been fun to, figure out what healthy food tastes good and what I like to cook, and, making it quick and easy for myself. And it's, like I said, it's all about discipline. How much do you really want it? How far are you really willing to go to be the best you can be? And put the best stuff in your body so you can get the best stuff out.
Right. That's super important.
What are some of your go-to recipes now after?
I've been baking a lot of chicken. I've been actually having a lot of salads. It's super easy. All you have to do is grab a nice bag of salad, throw it in a bowl, and then get not like a ranch dressing or something like that. It's just a nice little balsamic. It's not some super creamy dressing. Or just baking a lot of vegetables. If you throw broccoli, put it on a pan and throw it in the oven for 23 minutes or whatever, it's going to taste all right with a little salt and pepper. Trying to eliminate, all the pasta and stuff. When you're 14 years old and you're going to the tournaments and you're eating, all the pasta with meatballs and all that stuff, putting all those carbs, your body acts differently at 20, 25. With all those carbohydrates. So, trying to eliminate that stuff. I've been having a lot of beans, good protein, which I like. And, eggs are easy to make, nice source of protein. It's pretty simple. I mean, we have one of the best teachers in the world, which is Google, and it helps you out nicely. You already know what is not healthy and what is healthy for you when you're putting it in, to be honest.
Yeah, it's just that little voice in the back of your mind.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't need any more of that chocolate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so moving a little bit away from, I guess, nutrition, I wanted to ask personally, like, you played on the DC United squad with like pretty big name players, not gonna lie. I actually got to play once last year. What was that like? And what kind of mentality do you need to keep in order to, you're on the field, you're having to play with people.
To be honest, it was amazing. I grew up being a Manchester United fan, and I grew up with having Wayne Rooney. I grew up having Wayne Rooney posters on my wall. So to be able to play with him is almost indescribable. It's kind of surreal, to be honest, because who would have ever thought in the first place that Wayne Rooney would play for DC United? You'd picture him at like maybe an LA Galaxy or something, but of all places, he came to Washington, DC, which is nice, but it's not in LA or Miami or something like that. So it was really unique, or such a unique situation to see a superstar come in. Traveling was different now. Swarms of people around the bus, trying to get his autograph, and, just kind of watching him. I was just a sponge and just watched his every move, what he did. And to be honest, he's not a really a super exciting guy. He's pretty down to earth. Just, one of the boys in the locker room. You would never have known that he was, the highest paid player on the team, 250 goals for Manchester United. You would have never known any of that if he just came in walking in the door and he didn't know his name. He was just really honest and humble, and I really appreciated that in some of the conversations we had. But then on the field, it brought even more out of you. You'd be lying if you'd say you didn't want to impress Wayne Rooney on the field and give it your all. especially him being one of my childhood, idols, my
Yeah.
favorite player. So that brought even more out of me. And, I remember, celebrating with him with goals and, scoring my first professional goal with him on the field, and all that stuff is awesome. And something that I'll surely never forget. And yeah, I remember the first time, when he got signed, me, waiting all morning and be like, what am I going to say when I meet him and all this stuff. And, not knowing, I'm just super nervous, and I'm just walking around. He hasn't in yet. And then I turn around for one moment, and the next thing I know, I get a tap on my shoulder. I turn around, and it's Wayne Rooney, and I'm just like, I'm just baffled. And it's like, oh, he's a little smaller than me, so it's not that bad. And then I was just like, oh, how are you doing? And kept it cool.
That's good.
Yeah, something I always wondered about is when he was signed, he really seemed to galvanize the team and kind of tighten things up that needed to be tightened.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of that was his experience, and like you're saying, everybody wants to impress.
Yeah.
What are some of the smaller things that he was able to bring to the team as far as leadership?
Yeah.
To really make those connections.
I mean, the first thing that he had to do was just walk in the door for him, to really get a control of the team, in terms of, his reputation spoke for himself in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
We all knew, what he was about, but then he really came in and, right away, his communication, his, what he demanded from players, his communication with coaching staff about what he felt maybe would have been better at certain points.
Mm-hmm.
His relationship with Luciano Acosta, became really important. And, he got a lot out of Luciano. The second game I think he played, we were at Atlanta United, and, he got on Acosta, basically saying, you can't be dribbling in these certain situations. You have to come back and you have to defend. And he hadn't really gotten that before, because he was the superstar of the team at that point.
Right.
And, obviously Acosta respected him a lot, so he got even more out of Acosta. And, he was easy to talk to, and, the veterans of the team really supported him, and everybody, kind of came together to support him, help him out. And in turn, he helped us out. He took us out to some nice meals, and, paid for it on him. Just some things that were really cool and awesome experiences, that just get the team closer together, get the chemistry better. All those little things go a long way. And, you don't realize how, a team meal can help you in terms of just, getting everybody a little closer together, having a little bit of laughs, getting your mind off of soccer. And then, you become even better out of it, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure he was a pretty great influence for DC United, but I think we've talked about DC United a lot right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to ask about your transition to Europe. What was that like? How different is playing in the Belgian league compared to MLS?
Yeah, it's definitely different. One of my first games here was a Belgian. It was a derby from St. Troiden and a club called Genk, which is pretty famous for developing some great players. Yeah, like De Bruyne and some others. And in that game, we were losing 3-0, and at the 60th minute, from the 60th minute on, we scored 3 goals and tied it up 3-3. And the Genk fans were so mad that they were pushing through the barrier of the stadium to try and get onto the field and rush it. And there was these dogs, the Belgian police dogs, snapping at them, getting back. And I was pretty blown away by the atmosphere. I didn't really picture Belgium to be like that, but that's how much the derby mattered. And I could just see that the soccer mattered a little bit more here in the people's eyes, and it was a little bit more a part of their life. And Though definitely the Genk fans were not going to be going home happy. But it's just a little bit more ingrained in the culture. But in terms of the level of play, I was surprised with the level of physicality and the amount of stamina that you needed. Because when I came over, I wasn't fit enough to play a full 90-minute game. So I had to continue to work on my fitness over here, covering over around 13,000 meters in a game is my most here, which is crazy compared to what I was covering in the MLS. But also the tactical side was really stressed. I would say that the player level is pretty similar between the MLS and Belgium. There's even more superstars in the MLS, but I think maybe the average player here might be a little bit better. But it's just comparing, being really nitpicky. Both leagues are great, and I don't think the MLS gets enough credit. But my transition over here wasn't easy at first, leaving everybody behind and what I knew. And I'd actually just gotten an ankle injury before I made my transfer over to Belgium, because I completely tore my anterior ligament in a game against Philadelphia Union, and then was out for 2 months. And DC brought in another player, and I was like, hey, now there's 4 defensive mids on this team.
Right.
I'm not going to get any games. Can you loan me out somewhere? And luckily, St. Troiden came in with a loan offer that was pretty good, and they sent me on loan. And they said, you may not get any games here, but luckily I did. And now both teams are in negotiations to purchase me here in Belgium. So I'm really excited about that. And I just wanted the opportunity. I'd already told DC United that I wanted to play in Europe, and they understood that. And they said that they'll give me the opportunity if it comes and it makes sense for both sides. And we're currently in negotiations, but the transition wasn't easy. But like we said, consistency matters with, your mentality and the level that you bring on the pitch. And luckily I stayed consistent throughout my entire 4 or 5 months here, and, made it out on top towards the end of, now we're in our time here with the coronavirus and all that. But over the past, past 3 weeks that I was playing, was getting really great minutes, and, have a great relationship with the new coach and staff, and it's been great.
Yeah, for sure. I remember you scored your first goal for your team in February, right? What was that like?
It was great. It's funny because it was my birthday too. So I scored my first goal here on my birthday, and it was funny because I actually came in as a sub, and one of the defensive mids, he was having an amazing game, and I was just on the bench like, oh my God, this guy's just killing it right now. He scored a hat trick. And, he'd scored like 2 goals prior in his entire career. And of course he scores a hat trick, and I'm on the bench, so I'm just like, oh my God, this is going to score 4. And then, he does his celebration, and he takes his shirt and he puts it over his head, and he had already had a yellow card. So he gets another yellow card and gets a red card, and he's off the field for his celebration of scoring his 3rd goal. So then this is when we talk about consistency.
Yeah.
I get my name called to go in, and then, make a case for myself and end up scoring a goal, and staying still in the back of my coach's mind, so it's just mentally, I was frustrated that, he scored these 3 goals. You have to support your teammates, but it's difficult when you're on the bench. But, still keeping in the back of your mind, I still have the opportunity to get on the field, and I still have to make the most of it, whether it's 30 minutes or 5 minutes. I still have to give it my best. And luckily, within the last 2 minutes of the game, I was able to put the ball in the back of the net. But that all came from a guy getting a 2nd yellow for a celebration. So, you never know when the opportunities will arise. And mine came from that.
Yeah, it's a pretty good birthday present though, that goal.
Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's also hard when you are on the bench and you just come into a team to kind of make the coaches really recognize that you are still relevant.
Yeah.
As time goes on, and you have these guys that are scoring and they're banging them in front of you.
Yeah.
That you do have to be ready, because like you said,
Yeah.
5 minutes, you have to make those most relevant 5 minutes for the coach.
Yeah.
So you can get the start in the next match.
Exactly. And I'll piggyback off of that. Coming in, being a player on the bench, and then I came in after their preseason had ended. So I didn't know what the team was all about. I didn't know, their plan, the philosophy, tactics, anything. So I had to take it upon myself, to make sure that I asked as many questions as possible to the coach on what do you want me to do there? What did he want me to do there? I'd had conversations with my coach after each practice, making sure I understood what they wanted and what they needed from a player in my role. So, it's your individual responsibility. If you don't know something, or if you don't understand a certain thing, don't be afraid to ask. It's so important to have clarity on the field and not have that question mark in your head of where should I be. That was a really important part of, my success later on, is just understanding and continuing to work and understand on what is this club about, and what do they need from me in my role, and how can I bring that?
Yeah, you talked a little bit about your role on the team, but maybe this is more for people or players who aren't really sure about what they want to do in terms of being on the field and like what position they want to play. What kind of expectations come with your role as a defensive mid?
In terms of my position, you're pretty much just the guy, a pretty big behind the scenes guy. You're putting out small fires everywhere on the field. And you have to be reliable on the ball, not creating a lot of turnovers, being strong in the duel, good in the air, and then making sure that you're able to open up, turn and receive, and look forward as much as possible with decisive line breaking passes. It's not going to be a glamorous role or anything like that, and you're pretty much you're the link between the defense and the offense. So it's a really important position just in terms of the flow of your team. So your tactical awareness is really important as well.
Yeah, that's for sure.
At what point in your development did you kind of decide to take on that role? Or because I know a lot of young players go from keeper to defender to attacker and kind of bounce all over the place. When did you kind of really settle?
Yeah, it's difficult to sometimes pin down who you are. It's the same thing with finding your college major. Sometimes it's difficult for people. Sometimes it just comes to you. And for me, it wasn't always easy. I was the glamorous winger with the mohawk. I had everything. I was the striker scoring goals at 8 years old. But then as slowly as my speed started to, go away, and I started to, put on a little more size, I started falling further and further down the line, closer to goalkeeper. But I really enjoyed the position of holding mid, because, personally, I was a guy that, never quit. And, I, consider myself to be pretty, humble. And I feel like a holding mid position is pretty humbling, just in the sense that, you do a lot of the dirty work. And I enjoyed that. I like getting stuck in the tackles and, helping my teammates out. I've always been criticized for, trying to do every person's job on the field and sometimes not worrying about my own job, So I always enjoyed doing that. And, you have to have a pretty big cardiovascular endurance to be able to, run back and forth and up and down the field, box to box. And I knew that I had that. So it's just about, it's a great way in, writing down, things that you think you're good at, things you think you need to work on, pinpointing those and looking at the attributes of a winger, striker, skillful, got a lot of speed, center back, reliable, good in the air, strong, midfielder, great technique, 360 awareness. Just finding those key, individual attributes and seeing what you have. And, sometimes it's good to, if some things come naturally, get really, really good at those and be that guy that is really good with, whipping a ball in and crossing a ball, is really good at scoring in the box. If you're great at those things, be the best at that.
Yeah,
and you really stick out.
for sure.
Yeah, sure. I was gonna ask, which players do you mostly look at in terms of like trying to find your style, or players that you look up to figure out what your position should look like?
There's so many names, and it's great to, it's first of all, if it's really important to watch as much professional soccer games as you can, because you really gather so much information and education from those players at the highest level. And if you're not excited every Tuesday and Wednesday when Champions League comes on, then you just don't love soccer, But, watching, Busquets and, his 360-degree awareness and his turning ability to, Casemiro and Conte and their ability just to disrupt play, or, who else? Yeah, I think with Busquets, even just his distribution and finding little pieces of each player and trying to look at those and analyze and, try to apply them to your game. If you're holding mid and you're watching Ronaldo and Messi all the time, it might not help you out the most in your position. And I know there's not a lot of skills and highlights of holding mids, but it's more, found in just watching a full 90-minute game. And then, in watching players as well, professional games, it's even more important to rewatch your games and to, see what you're doing wrong, what you're doing good. That was something that I wasn't putting enough of my energy into, was rewatching film. Yes, you do it as a team at the professional level. You rewatch highlights as a team, but how much is the coach going and showing individually what you're doing, and individually what you can get better at? So it's important just to rewatch that, and you'll find, and you'll be able to go back to moments in the game in your head while you're watching and be like, what was I thinking here? And look at the other options around the field and see, the next time it comes, you'll instinctually know. That's how you start to gather more chemistry of where your players like to be set up more, and just a better understanding of what's around you.
Yeah. At the different clubs that you've played for, has there been an expectation of, team building, kind of like, we're going to look at this match film, or has it been on an individual basis, kind of like, here's the link, you guys go do it by yourself?
Yeah. It's been a lot of so normally at like on Monday we don't review any film the day after a game or 2 days after the game, just because emotions can run high still. You want to have the best professional conversations you can have, and just be as objective as possible with it, just so we're all getting better and we're not fighting about what's going on. And as a player, you have to humble yourself. You have to be open to, criticism. Being as coachable as possible is one of the best attributes to have as a young developing player, because you're not always right as a 12-year-old or even a 16-year-old. You don't know, what's going on, especially tactically. So we normally have a lot of sit down as a team, or center backs and defensive midfielders are together attackers and wingers are together to break down even more individualistic. But luckily, as a younger developing player, I was able to have my assistant coaches, pull me aside and rewatch game film, just me and them. And I requested that they pull some footage for me to look at. So it wasn't just them calling me. I took it upon myself to ask if they could do that for me as well. So it's you always have to be your biggest supporter, and always watching out for yourself. Unfortunately, in soccer, there's a lot of things to cover. There's a lot of boxes to check, and you just have to do the best you can with it. Because there's so much in the game that you have to learn. And it's not always easy, but you just have to remain as professional and diligent as possible to try and check off as much as you can.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're almost reaching the 1 hour time limit here. So
if anybody has any questions, you guys can send them in through the Q&A bar. We'll get them answered.
Yes.
This has been fantastic. Really, really insightful. Especially as a homegrown player from DC, coming up through and hearing your story and how well you can articulate each step and your mentality along the way is really massive.
Yeah. Thank you.
This was really insightful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
I do want to ask one more question before we leave. If you had to give 3 pieces of advice, someone actually does have a question.
Yeah.
Okay. Pre-game preparation and rituals before.
Okay. Obviously you have to have some nice music, some nice motivating music, to get you going, get the blood flowing a little bit. I'm starting to curate a little bit of a playlist. But another thing is, I got one right here, nice little foam roller. It's important for me. I always use it before a game, get the blood flowing a little bit. And I use that time as kind of just me time. I always have a little bit of 20 minutes, 15 minutes before a game, just on a mat by myself in the locker room with my headphones in, just focused on what I need to do. What are my key points that I'm going into the match focusing on? What I want to get, like we were just talking about with film. What have I reviewed in film? What are the key points that I need to get better at? And how am I going to apply them? We've also gone over film of, who we're playing. Who am I playing against? What do they like to do? Where do they like to go? And how I'm going to match up against them. A lot of things going through my head, and just trying to calm myself, because, certain times, where either, you're either calming yourself or hyping yourself up, because when you're going and playing against Atlanta United and there's 77,000 people in the stands, you're going to try and calm yourself a little bit. But if you're playing in a small city in Belgium and there's 2,000 fans, you kind of have to get a little bit more energy in you, because if you're playing in front of 70,000 fans, it's not that hard to get motivated. But yeah, I kind of use it as a little bit of a meditation time and just a visualization of what I want to do during the game.
Yeah. This one's a little bit more casual. Do you ever play as yourself in FIFA? In any other video game?
No, I don't waste my time playing with myself, because I've got pretty much no amazing stats to even use. I think I'm like a silver, so I've upgraded from a bronze to a silver, which is good. My goal is to go to a nice, reliable gold. But I don't play a lot of FIFA. I already play too much soccer to enjoy even more soccer on FIFA. I'm more stick to COD.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you'll get to gold.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm tired of getting roasted by my friends about just being a silver. It's mostly like 8-year-olds telling me that I have a terrible rating on FIFA. So it's Not good for the confidence.
All right, so this is the last question we'll take. What is your typical match day meal, and how long should you wait to eat before playing a game at peak performance?
That's a good question. I think it's also based upon yourself. When you're younger, you can kind of figure out how your body is and how it responds to things. And for me, I don't have a choice now because our meals are set for a certain time that we meet as a team before we eat. And that's 3.5 hours before our game, which works for me well. And that's chicken, pasta, spinach, some fruit, and that's about it. I don't go heavy on anything. Definitely I don't go heavy on a lot of pasta.
Yeah.
Ideally it's whole grain and not just a white pasta, because the body absorbs it and uses that really quickly. You want to use nice dense carbohydrates to fuel your body throughout the entire 90-minute match. And I think vegetables are really key in that as well. I put a giant plate of vegetables of whatever it's provided. So I'm lucky in the sense that I have meals as a team and it's already provided for me. But you can be even more individualistic for yourself if you're cooking it for yourself. Figure out what meals you really like and enjoy that will get the best out of you, and figure out your time frame. But an hour before is not going to help you. You want to make sure that you're digesting the food before you go out and play.
Yeah, you can't play bloated, can you?
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know if you have any other questions, Matthew, but I was going to close out with this one. All right. So I was just going to close out with, really quick, if you had 3 pieces of advice to give to players, what is it?
Yeah, I think number one is, you have to find that passion and love for the game. And this is if you want to reach the highest level you can be. If it's just for fun, that's great. But if you want to reach the highest levels you can, you have to find a passion and love for the game that really motivates you, and that just is like burning in your stomach, that you want to be the best you can be. That motivation is super important, because that motivation will get you outside to work on what you need to get to be better at, and will eliminate all the excuses in your head that, oh, I don't want to do it today. You have to have the motivation. Second is the work. You have to put in the work. There is no substitution for work, and putting in that work outside of your structured environment by yourself gives you the confidence to, when you step on the field and you're looking across from you're able to say, I've done more work than the person across from me, and I'm more prepared than them. So that confidence and that step above that person is so important. The mental game and knowing that you've put the work in and confidence to be the best you can be is so crucial. And then the third, I think, is how professional are you going to be? How willing are you going to go to be the best you can be? And that's not the work. That's all the outside factors. Making sure you have a good diet, eliminating the partying and the drinking. It's not important right now. It's good to go out with your friends and have fun, but there's here, and then there's taking it over the limit. And what are you going to do? You're just going to feel bad the next day? Maybe it's not that worth it sometimes. You just have to focus on your goals and let those goals motivate you, and motivate your decisions. Because if you're just thinking about the day to day, you're going to get wrapped up in all these things, and it's just not going to help you. You have to surround yourself with the right people, the right things, making sure that you're prepared, and then you'll get the best out of yourself.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, really good advice.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's wrap it up. This is
Yeah, cool.
episode 3 with Chris Durkin. episode 4 is going to be on Tuesday. We have the founder of the Play and Learn Foundation in Accra, Ghana, coming to talk to us about soccer in Africa and what he's doing on a grassroots level for development.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah. Thanks for
no problem.
Stay classy.
Yeah, it was great talking to you guys.
Yeah.
I think it's like 1 a.m. here.
Oh my God. Sleep.
Yeah, I'll probably have to hit the bed right now. But thank you guys for letting me talk. I'm loving these Zoom sessions, and I hope this this program that you guys are doing keeps doing well and keeps getting more support. So that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.
See you guys next time.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, keep in touch, Chris.
Thank you. All right, I'll catch you guys later.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye. Okay. We're not recording anymore?
No, I turned the recording off. We're still live on YouTube, so I'm
Oh,
gonna
okay.
stop the live stream. Oh, I see it.